Hello and welcome. My name is August Gold, and I'm going to spend the next hour with you. And I want to start by telling you a story, which is going to be followed by another story, and then I'm going to tell you something that Ernest Holmes says that you're not going to believe, and Pema Chodron says, the Buddhist teacher, she says something, and that just might piss you off entirely, because it's going to seem so untrue to you. And then I'll probably tell you another story, and at the end of the hour, I will magically wrap them all up, and we will all be feeling better in the moment as a result. I'm living in Boston at this time. I'm going back to the time I was, I think, 27 years old. And I was living in Washington. Then I moved to Boston for a number of years to follow an ill-fated relationship. And when the relationship was over, I decided I could move to New York City. And I could take the job I had in Boston and I multiplied it by 2. And then I took the apartment that I had in Boston and multiplied it by 2. I could get a better, bigger apartment and a better, bigger job and a better, bigger relationship. And that's how I moved to New York, expecting this plan that I had planned out, which was my life times 2, bigger and better, would be waiting for me in New York City. Well, I'm sure you already know the end to this story. The money that I spent in Boston to live in a beautiful high-rise with my own parking, with stores, grocery stores right on the premises near everything downtown, the money that I paid in Boston for that got me a space in New York right off the Bowery and Stanton Street in the Lower East Side before the Lower East Side became fashionable. So there were trucks, and in those huge trucks, moving van-sized trucks, the prostitutes would go, so there would be used condoms on the ground when I opened my door every morning, and I could purchase in New York not only that location, but in that location, a studio that was so tiny, with one closet only, the size where you could put in your coats, where the kitchen was in the one room. Everything was in the one room except the bathroom, mercifully, had a wall between that and the kitchen, living room, everything, dining room, den, bedroom, the whole thing was in one room. And I landed there. My great idea had not come to fruition in any of the categories at all. In fact, even worse, the story gets worse. I discovered that at night as I'm laying on my futon thinking, how did I land here? I hear mice scurrying in the walls overhead. So I am now laying on a futon on the floor with mice in the building, in the walls. Who knows when they're going to get in? Not if they're going to get in, when. And I can't believe that this is my life. Of course, I don't know anybody. I just had this great idea, and all those things would work out when I moved to New York. Well, nothing worked out as I imagined, not in the job arena, not in any arena. And I had been there a number of months. Most of the clothes that I brought, I had to leave out in the hallway because there was no place for it in my house, and most of those boxes were taken. Of course, I knew they would be, and the rest I just gave away. I lived out of the one closet. Oh my goodness. And then a neighbor from upstairs said he was having a party. And so I decided to go to his party and meet all his friends. But I am still in this place where I cannot believe the life that I had landed in and how I had landed here. How had that happened? How had it happened? In Buddhism, they have this interesting truth that they tell you about human life. You're not going to like it, I promise you. You're not going to like it. They say that in the beginning of your life, you get into a boat. Everybody gets a boat. You get into your boat, and here is the ocean of life, and here is the boat that you're going to be sent out into the ocean of life in. And they begin to push you out into the ocean to begin your life. And And you realize, as every single person who gets one of these boats at the beginning of his life, you realize to your own shock and to your own horror that this boat that's going to be the boat you go through life in, it's got a hole in it. The boat has a hole in it. Everybody's boat has a hole in it. And then you're sent out into the ocean to go live your good adventure of life, knowing you have a hole in the boat. And we can't, some of us, we can't, many of us, we can't take our eyes off of the hole. We become mesmerized by the hole because, of course, this is a boat and it shouldn't have a hole. It shouldn't have a hole. This shouldn't be happening. I'm standing on my third floor deck, and next to my house, my townhouse, is another townhouse where the people can stand on their roof. Now, they can't see me, they could hear me, and I can hear them. And so I'm out on my deck, and I am hearing what turns out to be the most unusual bird I've ever heard. It's got a bird song that's not exactly a song, and it's not exactly a beautiful, pretty song, but it's so interesting in its own odd, strident, quirky, almost a little obnoxious kind of way. It's kind of a fire alarm, but not quite as intense as that. But the interestingness of it, as it's cawing and cawing away, I began to just really get into the fact that I have never in my entire experience with birds, and I've lived in nature for a portion of my later adult life, so I've had lots of relationships with birds, but I had never heard a bird like that, ever. And it was fascinating. It was different. It was so different. So as I'm having this experience, the neighbor comes out, the husband, I guess, comes out, and he tells his wife this. I didn't even know she was up there. She didn't know I was there hearing them, and I could. He comes out and he says, "God darn it, this effing bird. If I had an effing gun, I would effing kill this bird." Same bird. Totally different response to it. I'm having a response to it as something that's so different. And it's different, maybe not as pleasing, but different and unique and interesting. This is life. This is creation. This is what life does. Everything is different. I'm responding to it by getting into the fact that this is creation, unique as we are, as unique as every one of us are. Some of us screechy and strident, right? Not at all pleasant, but it's all part of our uniqueness. Now, he's hearing the same bird that I'm hearing, except he is having a reaction to this bird that is bothering him so much, same bird, so much, that if he had had a gun, this is what he's saying, if he had had an effing gun, he said, if he had had a gun, he would have taken the gun, gone up on the roof of his house, and he would have shot the bird dead. He would have killed the bird. The differentness of that bird was so disturbing to him. And what he didn't know, what we don't know, is that when we are so disturbed by anything on the outside, it's an important, I could even say, an essential thing to know that the disturbance that we are feeling is the disturbance that we are carrying in our own body. It is the disturbance of being in a field of energy that doesn't feel good, so that a bird that has a different sound to it is so disturbing to us, we feel we need to kill it, to get rid of it, to get it off the earth, out of my world, so that I can go sit on my chair and relax as I'm watching Netflix, right? The problem with this approach is that we are walking around disturbed in the world, and everything is disturbing us, and we don't know it's because we are frequenting a disturbing energy. We are living in a disturbing energy. It's a frequency, believe it or not, that we choose. Believe it or not, that we choose. We can choose another frequency to experience the moment in, but if we don't know it, we're going to hang out in disturbing frequencies, and those disturbing frequencies are going to continue to disturb us all day long, to the point that if we can't get away from something different that's disturbing, different than us, different than what we want, we feel we have to get rid of it. We feel we have to kill it. We have to wipe it off the face of the earth. And we all do this. We all do this. And I'm not saying what's wrong with this man, what's wrong with him. We have only to look at our history to understand this is humankind. We are walking around in an energy that hurts us so much that we go out into the world hurting other people. And we don't know that we're doing it. We don't know we're doing it. And the reason I think we're doing it started all the way back when we were little and we found out that there was a hole in the boat. A hole in the boat. Something's wrong. There's a hole. It shouldn't be happening like this, right? It takes our eyes off the fact that we're in this boat, and for the most part, it's floating. But I can't see the whole boat. I can't see the ocean. I can't see the sunrise. I can't see myself in the boat. I can't see the beauty of the rolling waves. I can't see what happens in sunrise and sunset, the explosion of colors that's just awesome. Your jaw drops every morning. Your jaw drops every night at the colors in the heavens. That is the only word you can find for it, is just spectacular, is glorious. I can't see any of that. Because I'm too busy staring at the whole. I'm too busy staring at what's different that is disturbing me. I'm not using that same time, and we could, using that same time instead of being disturbed, looking at my disturbance, looking at me, looking at the whole, so I can begin to see if this is the way I want to go through the next 10 million moments of my life. I come from Boston, and absolutely nothing is the way I want it to be. Everything's a hole. Everything's a hole. Nothing is working. Nothing is right. So I go up to his party, and I have a beautiful time at his party, and I have a beautiful time meeting his friends. He's very lovely. He's very generous. I meet all of his friends. And then when the party is over and it's time for everybody to go home, and of course everybody goes home, he discovers that I haven't gone home. I mean, he's given me all the time to leave signals, and it's not like I am, unconscious about nonverbal communication. It's that I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back to my house. I don't want to go back downstairs into my tiny studio on the first floor where there are mice in the walls and I am living on a futon, and all the money that bought me this beautiful life in Boston has now brought me to the Lower East Side off the Bowery in a mouse-infested building. Now, to add insult to injury, I always say this because every story does have a little bit of a worse twist in it. I had a phobia with mice. I don't know where it came from. At that time, I didn't know where it came from. I just knew I had a phobia with mice, which is a problem because in New York with the subway system, let's just say that half the population of New York that humans share the island with is the rodent population, right? Mice and rats and all that, it goes with the subway system. It's the nature of the beast, and I've got a phobia, so if I'm hearing mice, it doesn't matter if I'm not seeing them. The terror I feel is identical, whether they're in my room or on the outside of the sheetrock of my room. So I don't want to go back downstairs. And I break this to Nikki. I tell him, man, don't take this the wrong way. I don't want anything from you. I'm gay. I said, I don't want anything from you. I said, but could I sleep with you tonight? Now, it happened that he was gay as well, so us sleeping together didn't cause any other kinds of friction or weird issues. It was just two people sleeping together in the same bed that I made him, his was on the floor on a futon as well, I made him put votive tea lights around the bed, thinking, course, this was a good thought, that if there were mice, this wall of flames, this wall of light would somehow deter them. I had a professional phobia, man. I had the kind of phobia that I went to a place called Hammacher Schlemmer in New York. I don't know if they're still open. They had great cool things, and I bought myself for $149 a sonic boom mouse eliminator. You plugged it in. Now, you couldn't hear it. I mean, for all I know, it was just a box, and I paid $149, and it was a placebo, and I felt better because the sound that was allegedly coming out of it was a sound that the ears of mice could not bear. It was unbearable to their ears, so they would flee from that space. I traveled with that box. That box, I never went anywhere overnight without my Hammacher Schlemmer sonic boom mouse eliminator. So we're sleeping in his bed. We're in his bed. We're surrounded by a wall of tea lights. And he says to me, "Let me tell you what your problem is." Now, if we can be cool when life is giving us feedback, because, of course, it looks like the feedback is coming from a person here that we like, that I trusted enough to stay in his house. I trusted enough to ask him such a question. It's not like I picked a stranger off the street. I trusted him. If you have people in your life that you trust, and they're giving you feedback, it's a real helpful thing to remember that this is life in its conversation with you, talking to you through that other person. Right? Otherwise, what's going to happen is somebody's going to give you feedback. Instantly, your feathers are going to be ruffled. Instantly, you're going to hear the feedback as criticism. And the next thing you know, you're not listening. Next thing you know, you're preparing what to say to them so that you let them know, don't ever criticize me again this way because you've just hurt my feelings. Meantime, you've shut down life's ability to give you feedback at all, especially even what it does give you, which is 24/7 continuous feedback. Life is constantly in conversation with us all the time, tweaking us into alignment, tweaking us into our proper relationship, into our proper movements in every day towards our complete happiness. Life is a movement towards our complete happiness. That's what A Course in Miracles insists is the direction that we're being taken in. If we can know that it's life itself having a conversation through this sweet man, Nikki, then I can hear what life is saying without taking it all personally. Once I take it personally, that's it. I can't hear. I can't see. I've just gone down in the basement. But if I can hold my seat, and instead of react, let life talk to me and respond to what it says. See how it feels, what it says. See if how it feels right to me. He said, I'll tell you what your problem is. He said, your problem is you are not accepting. You do not accept where you are. You're not accepting your life. You're not accepting anything. Well, of course, in that moment, I did not want to hear one word that he had to say because I came back at him with all the evidence in the world of why in the world would I want to accept something so acceptable as my life right now. There was nothing acceptable about it. I had expected a bigger job with a bigger office, with a bigger staff, right? None of that happened. Why would I want to accept something that I didn't want? Why would I want to accept this apartment? That was nothing like what I had in Boston. I had a balcony. I had a view. Oh my God, I had rooms. Holy cow, I had closets. Here, oh man, it was like it would have been perfect if I was a monk living in a monk's cell. That would have been a perfect space for me. Not who I was, with all of my stuff that I took with me, right? So I looked at him and I gave him all the evidence of why I was not accepting things, thinking he would agree with me. Yeah, he would say, I was assured that he would say, oh man, I'm so sorry. I had no idea it was that unacceptable. It was that hateful. You with a phobia, poor baby, this is terrible, and you're living in a building with mice. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. This is what we want to hear. We want pity. We want attention. We want the evidence of what happened to us to stack up to the cash and prizes of people saying, you poor baby. Your story is the worst. You win the prize. The problem is, the cash and prizes we win for telling the best story of how life is victimizing us doesn't take us anyplace new. In fact, it doesn't take us any place at all except in circles. And the problem with the concentric circles we keep going in is those circles get smaller and smaller. Not only does our life get smaller, we get smaller. And I had all my evidence. He didn't agree with any of it. He just looked at me and he repeated what he said the first time because clearly I didn't hear him. And clearly I didn't. He said the same thing. You know what your problem is? He said the same thing as if I had a hearing loss. And when I am in my fear and my evidence of my self-righteous anger and resentment and unwillingness to come to the moment and be with what life gave me, deal with what life gave me, work with what life gave me, take the hand life dealt me in this moment and do something with it, respond to it, and to come into the moment with complaining and negativity. Oh my God, that's not doing something with the moment, certainly not something that feels good to you, and it's certainly not going to feel good to the people around you, even though we all might laugh about it. We might laugh, but it's the kind of laughing that makes you want to have to drink. The kind of laughing that covers up the painfulness that then alcohol has to anesthetize, because it hurts so much to come to life from our disturbing frequencies that we keep choosing, because of course we didn't know that frequency is a choice. We just thought life puts us in a frequency and we have to fix life in order to fix how I feel, and it will never work that way. He said the trouble with you is you're not accepting what is. Now, he was just a guy in the Lower East Side, right? In the Lower East Side, what we could call, I don't know what it's called today, probably has a name. You could call it part of the East Village, but it probably wasn't. It probably has a fabulous name, and my place is probably going for $16,000, right? I'm so sure that is the truth. I got in early, but I didn't know to buy the place. He says to me, you're not accepting where you are. This is Buddhism. This is the deepest Buddhism. Here's just a guy I meet. I've never seen him since. We had a short relationship together as friends, and then we went our own way. But this guy was as tapped in to a Buddhist truth as I have ever experienced. And let's be honest, there aren't a million truths. There are a handful of universal truths that move beneath the surface in one direction. This is one of them. Nothing changes in our life. Nothing changes in our life. Nothing can change in our life until we change our relationship to what is. And the way in which I was approaching how my life was keeping my life stuck in this hard, angry, sad, disappointed. Did I make the wrong move? Did I do the wrong thing? Am I a wrong person? Am I bad? Is the move bad? What did I do that life is punishing me? Why did this happen? Women don't get cut a break. Men are all powerful. The next thing you know, it's women, men, the administration, the world, other people, your parents. The next thing you know, you are on a train of thought right down into the basement. And when we know that it's a choice, we can stop in that moment And that's what he was inviting me to do. He was inviting me to choose another frequency. He called that frequency acceptance. That acceptance does not live in the field of fear. I couldn't get to that in the field of fear. I had to literally choose a different frequency. I had to leave my complaining and my anger and my holding on and my blaming the story or blaming myself or whatever. I had to let go of that in order to turn to a frequency that you know is true, because you can feel in your body what a relief begins to wash over you at the idea of letting go, of the idea of releasing our resistance to what life is dealing us, the hand we are dealt. This is the hand. This is the hand that's come to evolve us. This is the hand that's come to bring us to fruition. Now, same hand might be given to an orange or a carrot or a daisy or a sunflower or a lion, but they can't like we can. They don't have a mind like we have. They can't argue the point. When life comes to evolve creation simply moves in the direction that life is moving them. We are using our intelligent minds, Ernest Holmes said, unintelligently. And if you don't know Ernest Holmes, he was a significant teacher in my life, like Eric Butterworth was a significant teacher in my life. Ernest Holmes was the founder of a philosophy called the science of mind. That's its exact name, the science of mind, not to be confused with any other science in the titles. The science of mind was about using our intelligent mind intelligently, but of course nobody teaches us how to do that. We're taught how to tie our shoes, but we're not taught to use our mind. I was taught how to drive a car. I was taught how to multiply numbers, but nobody ever taught me how to use my mind, how to use the context through which all my thinking in my whole life, in your whole life, is going to come through. It's going to come through. Nobody taught us how to do that. So I didn't know when Nikki said acceptance, what he was saying is kind of what Ernest Holmes was saying. Use your intelligent mind intelligently. Use your intelligent mind intelligently. So this is a good time to take a breath into your body. I had heard what he said, and you know you're in the vicinity of truth. Doesn't matter what religion it comes from. Doesn't matter what philosophy it comes from. It doesn't matter whether it comes from the East or the West. It doesn't matter. If this truth makes you feel, if your proximity to this truth when it comes through you makes you feel more relaxed, makes you feel more safe, makes you breathe easier, which is the root of the word spiritual. That's the root of the word. It makes you breathe easier. Why? Because you can relax in the presence of this truth. Why? Because you can feel in the presence of this truth a safety you haven't felt before. And in the presence of that safety, your shoulders go down automatically. You relax automatically. Your body begins to let go automatically because you are using your intelligent mind intelligently instead of only using the smallest portion of our mind, which he might call the human mind, which Joel Goldsmith, a teacher, a contemporary of his, called mortal mind. We each get a mind when we come into this body. It comes with the body. We are not this body-mind technology. We are the energy that has the use of this body to locomote through this life we're experiencing. This is the body we're given to use, and we need to train our mind, our intelligent mind, so that we can use it intelligently. Here's what he said. I'm going to give you a quote from him. This is from Ernest Holmes. He says this: if you get quiet long enough and listen deeply enough, these days we'll call it meditation, we'll call it sitting, we'll call it being with yourself in stillness. We'll call it yoga. We can call it whatever we want, and we can access this place however we want to do it. But no, he says that if you get quiet long enough, this is his quote, I'll just add the embellishments. I can't help myself. And you listen deeply enough, you will access the part of your mind that already lives in heaven. It already lives in heaven. You will access the part of your life, your mind, that already lives in heaven. And when you do, you will discover that it is already connected to acceptance. Uh-oh. This is a crazy thing to really take in. So I'm going to have you take a breath right here. We're going to access the part of our mind that's already in the frequency that we want. We're not going to have to become accepting people. We're not going to have to go open Google and look up the word acceptance and begin to study how to accept. We know how to do it when we simply use our intelligent mind intelligently. And what Ernest Holmes is saying is there is a part of mind that already lives in heaven. It already lives in heaven. It's already there. Now, if we take heaven not to be used in its strictly biblical sense of a place, but if we take a deeper metaphysical look, or a deeper look, we don't even have to use the word metaphysical. If we take a deeper look beneath the surface of the words heaven, we'll get to the root of the word heaven, which is expansion. Expansion. Something none of us feel. Right now, we feel so trapped. Oh my God, we feel so trapped, surrounded by crises, led by people who are out of touch with themselves. We feel so trapped in this world, and where do we begin making changes in the world? How do you start? The word heaven is not a place that we're going to go to after we figure out how to survive, how to exist in this dangerous world, those of us who are lucky. Heaven is a state of mind. It's a level of consciousness. It's a state of being. It's a way of being. It's a note that we play as the instrument that St. Francis of Assisi was said to have said is who we are. Make me an instrument. Well, we are one. And you know that because we can play any note we want to play. I was playing the note, my New York City note, of the victim of this big, hard, cold, cruel place that charged so much money I could only afford a hovel. A hovel, right? A hovel. It's so much better than so many other people had. But in that moment, it felt like a hovel. I could not be grateful or appreciative of it because I was only looking at the hole in the boat. The hole in the boat that shouldn't have been there. I couldn't see the sunrise and the sunset. I couldn't see what was in front of me. I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it. That's why Nicky had to repeat himself 2 times. And look, I got a master's in communication, so it's not like I'm not a good communicator. I can't hear. I can't see. When I don't want to be in the moment, when I am arguing with the moment about the way the moment has turned out, when I'm mad that my boat has a hole in it. When we are in a place of reactivity like that, we're in trouble because life can't come in, life can't help us, life can't talk to us through other people. Life can't bring to us what we need. Why? Because we're closed, we're angry, we're tight, we're closed, we are closed. There is no way life can come into a fist. There's no new life that can come into a fist. We ourselves discover that if we can choose, if we want, and this is a choice, if we want, we can choose to play another note, just like anybody who plays an instrument can play any one of the notes they want to play. So can we. Wow, is that a big, gigantic, huge, life-affirming, life-altering piece of news? We can change the note we're playing as the instrument that we are. We choose another frequency, and he was telling me to choose the frequency of acceptance. To choose the frequency of acceptance. Why? Because right away I knew why. It felt better. I felt better in his bed right then and there. Nothing had changed. The lights are all flickering. He could have had mice in his house, for all we knew. All of that, nothing had changed. Not one condition had changed. Not one mouse had died in the wall from eating poison. There wasn't one thing that was better in my life when he told me about that word called acceptance, that frequency called acceptance, that truth called acceptance, that when you let go of something, you're going to, by default, fall into something greater. When we let go of trying to force life to be what we want it to be, I want a boat with no hole in it. I want a place in New York that looked like my other place, but twice as big. Once we let go of coming into the moment with our plan, which is just going to set us up for expectation that cannot be met because my plan has nothing to do with life's plan. I didn't birth me. Life birthed me. I know the things I like to do and want to do and am good at doing and excel at. I know the things I want to master at and do excellently. But I don't know why life created me, because it needed me, a very exact, unique me in this world to help creation. We are all born. Everything in life has a usefulness. Everything in life has a use and usefulness, especially and including us. And to think we don't is to not use the part of our mind that is already connected to heaven. The intelligent part of our mind, we might say. The higher part of our mind with the higher notes that it's connected to. We might say our angelic or energetic mind. We might say the mind of our light being. We have a human mind and we have a being mind. That's our full name, the part of us that is human in this body and the part of us that is us, that's living in this body, animating this body, being the character we are, deciding how we want our character to be in each moment. We're not trapped in the story of our life in these bodies in a boat with a hole that's sinking, and we got to figure out a way how to plug the hole and go through our life trying to figure out how to plug every hole that shouldn't be there. That's a way of life that is just, it's disastrous. If we don't know the process of life, the Tao Te Ching says, I think in verse 16, it says it's a disaster. We're always trying to make life into what we want it to be, and then we end up failing because life doesn't meet our expectations. And we think it's about what we or others did wrong, when in fact it's about coming into the moment with these expectations that have nothing to do with why life created us and why we're here. I was trying to get something from life, and it wasn't giving it to me. I wanted a boat with no hole in it. I wanted to live in New York the way I had in Boston times 2. I am always trying, we are always trying to fix the hole in the boat, in the relationship, in our love affair, in our work life, with our money, with our wallet, with other people, with other countries, right? And if we can't figure it out on this planet and we mess up this planet enough, hell, let's build a rocket, let's go to another planet, and let's start all over again in the same paradigm of fear that didn't work for us until now. How do we know? Because it can't work in the world if it doesn't work in the world's inhabitants. We are the world. My problem was not with New York. My problem was not with the labor market. My problem was not with how much it cost to live there. My problem was not with the mice. My problem was I was playing a note that was disturbing me. I wanted to kill the bird. I wanted to kill the bird. I wanted to kill the bird so I could go on and just go back to being happy and having the life I should be having. We can't kill the bird. I mean, we can kill the bird. We have spent our history killing off all the birds that look different, that have different colors than us. The stronger of the species that has the different colors that they decide that's the species that is worthy and strongest. Oh my God, they kill the birds from the other species. We do it all the time. We're always killing the birds that disturb us, not understanding that we will always be disturbed until our dying day, and then the next generation will inherit that disturbing frequency because we haven't known yet that we can make another choice. We can choose a sweeter note to play. And acceptance felt so good when he said it. I could just accept. It had never occurred to me. It had never occurred to me. And why did it feel like something I suddenly wanted to do? I mean, I didn't want to run downstairs and do it this moment, but it felt like an option, an optional note I could play because I could feel, we can feel that when we play the higher notes, we're getting closer and closer to what the truth is. How do you know? Because it feels better and better. It feels better and better. When you begin to accept, it feels better. When you begin to allow, it feels better. When you begin to let go of control, it feels better. It's a relief. We feel finally more spacious. Heaven, A Course in Miracles, is a teaching that has been taught magnificently by many people. But by one person who has also been a teacher in my life. I've had many teachers. Oh my God, I have been so lucky to be in this world and have access to in person. And now, of course, on the screen, on video, to be able to have access to all these people who are able to teach by pointing their finger at a higher note and inviting us, beckoning us, inviting us, encouraging us, lifting us up, sometimes damn near carrying us and dragging us to play the higher notes so we can find out for ourselves that life is not hard as we thought it was. We are not the people we thought we were. We are the people who don't live in the frequency of disturbance. We are the people who choose to frequent that frequency. And then when we do, life is hard, and then we experience hard experiences. Then we say hard things. When Carol was still in her body, I would say to her on days when I was in the basement outside of the moment and couldn't get myself back in, I'd say, stay away, babe, stay away. You don't want to be within striking distance, because when we're in a disturbing frequency, what comes out of our mouth is disturbing. What comes out of our actions is disturbing. What comes out of what we see and hear comes through disturbance. So, oh my God, anything different than what we expected was going to happen. The hole in the boat, it's killing us. It's killing us. We want to kill something. Sometimes we want to kill ourselves because it is so painful. And what the teachings say is, what if you accepted the hole in the boat? What if you accepted the bird? What if you accepted where you landed in New York City? Right? It's counterintuitive. What if you put your fist down and instead of coming to the moment to get something that life isn't giving you, what if you opened your hand and discovered that when your hand is open, you can actually receive something? So I did. The only way I knew what acceptance, what the feeling of acceptance was to me. It hit me that morning when I woke up. First of all, I had to thank him, 1,000 times for giving me a transcendent experience inside of my phobia and my worst fear. When have I ever asked anybody? The only other time I asked somebody that I couldn't leave their place and I had to sleep with them, as I think about it now, it was also about mice. It was also because of a mouse. Oh my God, that's a whole nother story. The phobia with mice. But not for today. I thanked him 1,000 times for giving me something iconic. You see, when we're willing to take feedback, when we are willing to understand what feedback is, it is a message from life given through this person to me. Now, I can argue with it, or I can simply take that feedback and see if it's useful to me. If it is not useful, it's not useful. But if it's useful, I can take it. And what I will discover is that was an iconic moment in my life that passed for an ordinary moment. There's no ordinary moments when we are present in the moment and willing to be in the moment. The moment itself reveals itself. The moment itself comes to us. The moment itself brings a silver platter and says, here's what you need. And what I needed was acceptance. I needed to go downstairs that morning and do the feeling of acceptance. Right? Do what felt like, it looked like and felt like me accepting. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, I called in late at work on that day. I called in an hour late because I needed to make a call. I don't think there was the internet, or if there was, it hadn't run across my life. I wasn't tuned into it at all. So I called up a carpet place and I said, I want you to lay down carpet in my home. And they said, how big is your home? And I said, I think I said like 15 by 20. He goes, no, I mean, not the room, he said, your whole home. I said, 15 by 20. He said, that's your home? He said, you could use a remnant to lay down carpet if that's your whole home. He said, don't buy a whole big new thing. Go buy a remnant for it and we'll lay it down for you. Laying down a carpet was the way I had learned growing up that we were moving into a new home. So I laid down carpet. When I went into the program of Al-Anon, there are 3 steps in Al-Anon. I went into the program in Al-Anon to work out my inability to have happy relationships. I didn't know how to do love. I had no idea, and I knew it. I figured it out after a while, after enough explosions, that I didn't know what I was doing when it came to love. I had only seen what I had seen growing up. I tried to replicate it in my life, and oh my God, it just didn't work in the most spectacular way. But while I was in Al-Anon, I also became keenly aware of another area of my life in which I was crazily addicted. I was addicted to cigarettes to such a point that I was smoking 3 packs a day. Now, smoking 3 packs a day, if you don't notice what you're doing, you keep smoking. I started with 1 cigarette and I wasn't paying attention, and the next thing you know, I was smoking 60 cigarettes a day, which means you have to focus all your attention on smoking from the time you get up with your first cup of coffee and keep smoking all day long to smoke that many cigarettes. And I thought cigarettes was sexy and it was cool and it made me cooler and oh God, right? The whole thing. What addiction is, what addiction was for me, I had created a smoke screen around myself at all times so that people would not see the hole, the H-O-L-E, in me. Because once you're focused on that hole, we see the hole in everything. It becomes a way of living in the world, a way of walking in the world, as opposed to being able to see the whole story. I saw things in me that were different that had to be hidden growing up. So I hid those things about myself, my differentness. I hid my differentness, the kind of bird that I was. I put that in hiding, put up a big smoke screen. Of course, we don't know any of this. This all happens in 3 seconds of a conscious decision that goes instantly unconscious. I didn't know any of this is going on. I'm just smoking away, not realizing that the smoke screen is to keep everybody, including myself, from the pain of the hole inside of my boat, inside of my soul, inside of my heart. And the hole is not some round hole. The hole happens to be the shape of everybody's own hand, right? If you want to know what your hole looks like, go look at what your hand looks like, the shape of your hand, because it's your hand shape. It's not the shape, that which is going to come to plug up your hole and to make you feel the wholeness. We are all longing to feel the wholeness, the okayness, the safety, the joyousness, the aliveness. That can't come from any other hand filling up that hole but our own hand. So I started stepping into the program of AA as well, not exactly telling them I was there for cigarettes, because I knew they like to keep their meetings different. But to me, people who were going to AA in Boston took it seriously. That's a drinking town. which meant that the meetings in AA, oh my God, they were life and death. I heard things in those meetings and I felt what everybody felt. Cigarettes weren't a lesser or a less important addiction. All addiction is the same thing. It's a hiding place. And I understood everybody's stories of hiding because I too was hiding by a different drug. Now there's meth, now there's sex, then there was cigarettes, then there was alcohol. There's all these hiding places that we can all find, and I identified with every story. There was a guy who had gone so far down into the basement of his life. He said, you know the guy who used to bark at you when you would come into the Boston Common? He said, I was the barking guy. And then there were people like me whose bottom wasn't as extensive, as deep. But I could not stop smoking to save my life, and my doctors made it so clear to me that I was killing myself, putting smoke in that hole in the boat so I wouldn't feel the pain of the whole of what was wrong with me and what was wrong with my world and what is wrong with the boat that has a hole in it, because every human body on earth is gonna sink. Our life has an expiration date. We just can't find it on our body. It's somewhere tucked to inside of us that we can't get a flashlight to see what the expiration date is. But we're born with an expiration date, and it's killing us, which is why we're always trying to fix the world. Which is why we are always trapped inside of the expectations. We come to the moment with trying to fix the moment so we can fix the whole. We don't have to fix the whole, we just have to fill it. When we use our intelligent mind intelligently, this is what happens. The program of 12 steps starts with 3 steps, and they're brilliant. I'm not going to tell you what they all are. I'm just going to tell you the abbreviation of them, because you will get the whole sense of what the program is. The first step, the first of 12, the first step is about admitting that you are powerless over the way in which you're having a relationship. Blank, fill in the blank, with your substance, with your partner, with life, with your health, whatever it is you want to fill in the blank with. You are powerless over your relationship with it. How do you know? Because your life has become unmanageable. Whether you're just crazy in your head or downright crazy in the middle of the street, it's the same thing. You are powerless. The abbreviation is I can't. I can't. I can't. You know you can't because you've been trying. 7 years I tried to stop smoking. I can't. I can't. I can't stop, we say. I can't. I can't do it. Step 2. There is a power greater than yourself that can. There is a power greater than yourself. And what is Ernest Holmes talking about? If we get quiet long enough or listen deeply enough, and maybe you don't have to sit and spend 30 days in a retreat to do this. Maybe you just can sit down and turn off all the screens of fear and screens of inoculation and screens of, oh God, numbing. And you can just sit with yourself long enough, he says. If you get quiet long enough and listen deeply enough, you'll have access to the part of your mind that already lives in heaven. It already lives there. It already lives in heaven. That exists, step 2 says. That exists. This higher power, this higher place, this higher connection to heaven that is around you and in you that you're always connected to, it's here. Step 3, step 3 is let go into it. I can't. This higher power can. And step 3 is, I'm just gonna release. I'm just gonna let go. I'm just gonna surrender. I'm just gonna give in. I'm just gonna give myself to that greater power. I'm just gonna give my resistance over. I'm just gonna give my control over. I'm just gonna give my need to fix everything, including trying to fix this addiction. I'm just gonna stop trying to fix the whole. We gotta stop trying to fix the hole because it's exhausting and it never works. And it just makes the hole seem bigger because we can't take our eyes off it. Stare into the screens of fear long enough and you will be staring into a bottomless hole. Or, right? This is such beautiful news because there's an or. And the or says, or you can take your eye off the hole and you can begin to look at the whole, W-H-O-L-E, the whole picture of what is around you, the whole scenario that you're in a boat. And we are traveling through the ocean of our life, an experience that nobody will ever have the way we will. We are unique unto ourselves, and we have this opportunity to experience this life in this way, in this body, as ourselves. If we're unhappy, it simply means we're unhappy with the person in the boat. And the only person in the boat that we're in the boat with is ourselves. I was so miserable in New York because I stopped being with myself. I just jumped down into the hole trying to fix it all the time instead of getting into the whole picture of what also was happening. This doesn't mean there isn't a hole. It does mean there is a whole other world in addition to the hole around which, the context of which this hole happens to also be. We need to use our intelligent mind intelligently. How? By giving over the resistance of the frightened human mind. Of course it's frightened if there's a hole in the boat. We give that over. I can't. This human mind can't take me to acceptance. But there is a place in me and around me that can. Doesn't matter what you call that greater power. For heaven's sake, call it source. Call it source energy. Esther Hicks calls it source energy. Source energy. It's what it is. It is a source energy that we are connecting to, and it can help us. It can. If we let it, it can be the part of heaven that we access through the part of our mind that's already in heaven. So Marianne Williamson, what does she teach? She teaches something called the Course in Miracles. She has devoted her life to these teachings. Oh my God. Teachers are a rare breed in this world because we do not value spiritual teachers, because we do not value people who come to teach us how to live, because we already think we know how to live. We don't want to know who we are because we think we already do know who we are, but I'm telling you, we are far more beautiful than we could ever imagine ourselves to be. And this world is far more exquisite, far more wonderful than we could ever imagine this world to be. And the spiritual teachers who come to earth to do that particular job do it in a world that sometimes not only doesn't understand the vibrations that they are bringing with them to the world and into their teachings, but makes fun of it, right? Demeans it, diminishes it, and makes it hard for them to do the job they're doing. She teaches something called the Course in Miracles, and there are many courses and teachings that will bring us, like keys to a lock, that will bring us where we need to find ourselves in the moment to help us get out of the prison we ourselves have built around ourselves. And one of the teachings from A Course in Miracles is heaven is a decision that you must make. That's one of the 365 daily treatments that we begin to come back and remember that heaven is a note. It's a consciousness. It's an expansion of consciousness, and it's a decision we have to make. It's a decision we have to make. Didn't Einstein say that same thing? Either we make the decision that everything is a miracle, or nothing is. He said that. We're not talking about only teachers who are teaching. Teachings that we need to hear so that we can learn how to live. in relationship with our body, in relationship with the world, in relationship with the moment, in relationship with our life, so that we can be in our boat and we can enjoy the ride. Yes, there's a hole, but yes, there's a hole happening, but there is a whole lot of sunrise beauty, a whole lot of sunset beauty, a whole lot of ocean of healing, a whole lot of animals in the world, a whole lot of people who all bring their different lights and different talents and different unique personalities. There's a whole world of wonder and awe, and we're in it. We've chosen to be in it. We chose these bodies to locomote through an experience of life we're wanting to have, and if we don't get lost in the story of what the fear of the whole will shrink our life down to, we can lay the carpet down right here in the exact moment you're living in. We can lay the carpet down in this exact pandemic we find ourselves in. We can lay the carpet down with the political leaders, the exact political leaders we have at this instant. We can lay the carpet down with all the crises that we have facing our planet, our environment, ourselves, our children. We can lay a piece of carpet down, and it doesn't matter if it's the size of a remnant. Because when we lay the carpet down, I was able to go into where I was working temporarily, waiting to get the job that was twice the size of the job I had. I was able now to see the opportunities that were around me. I was able to see the people who were there ready to help me. I was able to see through something somebody said, through an offering somebody made, through everything that was brought to me in the moment that allowed me to move forward and move forward and move forward into a new apartment in the West Village. That allowed me to move forward into a job that was unexpected but actually perfect for me right at that moment of my life. I was able to move forward into a friendship that I have to this day that has brought just goodness and love into my life, brought family into my life. I have been able to be moved by life into the life life is trying to give us. When we're coming to life trying to get the life we want, which is simply to fix what we think needs to be fixed so we can relax, we might consider trying those first 3 steps. I can't, you can, so I'm going to let you. I can't, life can, so I'm going to let life. I can't, life can, so I'm going to let life. And what do? We accept, lay the carpet down, accept where you are, and then see what happens. Then see what life can give you. Then see what life has been giving you that we haven't been paying attention to. Then see what life might be bringing you that we haven't heard until the moment that we accept it and recognize that right here in front of us are the next steps we need to take to move into a life that's not our old life times 2. We're not going to move into this new world after the pandemic and have our old life times 2, our old world times 2, or our old world divided by 2. It's not going to be halved, and it's not going to be multiplied because it's not going to be the old world. When this pandemic continues its cycles, and it will go on for a while, when it is done, all done, when we're on the other side of it, all inoculated in the way we need to be inoculated, and this is no longer a thing, it's a new world. I was being brought into a new world, not to come to New York to recreate an old one. Life doesn't make any 2 snowflakes the same. My God, you can rest assured, life doesn't make any 2 people the same. And the next moment, no 2 moments are going to be the same. There is a new world coming because there's a new moment coming, and we don't have to be afraid of it. We just have to get inside of the moment, aligned with the moment we're in, lay down a piece of carpet with the way things are, and then take a ride into the next moment to see what's waiting for us. And we do this moment by moment. That way, the world isn't scary when it brings us something that is not to our preferential expectation. The world is interesting. Then we don't have to kill the bird. We can enjoy the bird. Then we don't have to plug the hole. We can enjoy the ride in the boat with its astonishing views and experiences and growth. We can learn everything it has to teach us. We can receive everything life wants to give us. And when it's time for the boat to sink, we'll be ready. And we'll know we're ready because it will feel like the next right move in the moment. The next right move in the moment. So take a breath. It's a good time to take a breath. And right where you are in your life, lay down a piece of carpet and accept what is. Enough said.